Hello everyone, this is Shannon from That's So Poe, and today I'm happy to bring you a bookshelf tour. Since it's Christmas, you'll notice a few Christmas decorations up, and I thought at the end I might sneak in just a little bit of showing you some of the Christmas decorations in our tree, since I love Christmas and I love decorations, so it's a fun thing to add in at the end. The bookshelf tour that I want to do today is not necessarily an in-depth look at every single book that we own, but rather taking an overview of the types of books that we own and the sections on our bookshelves, and maybe pointing out a couple of favorite authors. The bookshelves that we have are actually far reduced from what we used to have. We really pared it down a couple of years ago when we moved into this house. We had found that we were buying a lot of books, but not rereading them. And we bought books from authors we didn't know, as well as authors we did know. And the authors that we didn't know, sometimes we wouldn't even like them, but we just kept the books around because it felt like a waste to get rid of them. But we decided, hey, you know what, let's pare this down, let's not take up the space. And instead of buying books, we shifted to borrowing books from the library. And that's been enormously wonderful because not only do we support our library, we also read so many more books because it's very easy to just borrow a digital book from the library. Our reading's vastly increased. So for anyone who has that same problem of overbuying books, I really recommend checking out the Libby app, which you can integrate with your library card and manage your searching and borrowing and returning books digitally as well as audiobooks via the app, and it's absolutely wonderful. Okay, so I will get started and show you our different bookshelves. So the first bookshelf that I wanted to show you is probably our most diverse bookshelf. It starts on the top with some photo albums and notebooks, and then we've got this top shelf with a lot of tall books, especially, that's why they're on the top shelf, as well as some fun things like an old collection of Edgar Allan Poe stories, or my collection of Jane Austen works, or a few just random things like Lovecraft stories that my husband has. The next shelf is some fantasy fiction. In particular, there's a big section of Terry Pratchett Discworld books, which my husband and I are both fans of, as well as some larger editions of hardbacks, things like that. This next shelf is also fantasy fiction, a few of my favorites when I was younger, such as Piers Anthony's Xanth series and David Eddings' Belgariad and Malloreon series, as well as Terry Goodkind's Sword of Truth series. That's another series that I was reading in high school and took too long to come out with the next books, and so I never quite finished. Moving down, we have some science fiction, including Douglas Adams, Orson Scott Card, and Isaac Asimov. I love Asimov's I, Robot and Foundation series. Those are great. And then we have some Neil Gaiman, quite a few different books by Neil Gaiman, as well as on the right, a few books written by people that we know who are authors, which is always really fun. The next shelf is romance. This is my shelf, and I've got a lot of favorite authors, but I really pared it down to the ones that I thought I would reread. So I'm a big fan of Mary Ballow, Johanna Lindsey, and Lisa Kleypas, so there's quite a few books of theirs in there. And then this bottom shelf has just a bunch of language books. I do love learning languages, and even if I don't really need those books anymore because I'm not taking classes, I still like to have the references on hand. The next bookcase that we've got is a bunch of manga, and this is all in Japanese, so sorry that the titles aren't exactly readable. But basically, these first three shelves you can see have a lot of pink and red on them. They are shoujo manga. So they're comics that are written for girls especially, and focus a lot on things like high school love stories, that sort of stuff. In particular, up on the top left, there is Sailor Moon, which I was a huge fan of in high school. And down below that is something called Itazura na Kiss, which is a really funny story about a girl who is completely inept at everything. And I just really like her. I think I like inept women in my stories who still try to do everything. And moving down, we've got a lot of other girls manga. On the right bottom, there's Koucho Oji, which is a magical tale about tea princes. They're like magical tea princes who come to life, and I really like that story too. Moving down, we enter the shonen manga section, which is the boys' comics section. GTO, up on the top left, is a very silly story about a teacher who's kind of a gangster, but he really helps his students, so that's sweet. One Piece is a great story about some pirates. And on the next shelf, we've got Ranma 1/2, which is about a martial artist kid who shapeshifts and turns into a girl. And Rurouni Kenshin on the right, which is about samurai. And then on the very bottom, I've got a bunch of Inuyasha, which is about a dog demon. Next, we have these cute little boxes where the upper right is not books, it's just some dollhouse furniture that my stepmother saved for me when I was a kid. And on the lower right, just a couple of favorite books. So some Sherlock Holmes stories and Edgar Allan Poe works, and things like a Roald Dahl book and Victorian house style. These bookshelves contain some oversized books, such as scrapbooks on the left and the right, as well as our technical books. So these are books that focus on computer science or math, and they're, really nice books. They've got a lot of good reference information, so we like to keep them around. This bookshelf is probably my favorite in the house. It's sort of my happy place. It's got a bunch of books that are favorites, as well as books that I'm intending to read. So on the top, it's got in the middle the Teddy Roosevelt biography trilogy that I'm a big fan of, as well as a few books that are gifts from my husband that I'm meaning to read, such as Soonish and What If. On the next shelf, it's got a bunch of books that I've been meaning to read for a very long time and just haven't gotten around to, such as The Selfish Gene, as well as a couple of favorites like George Orwell's 1984. And then it also just has a ton of things that make me happy. So a very chubby Spider-Man and an Edgar Allan Poe bobblehead and a Teddy Roosevelt bobblehead and card from my husband, those sorts of things. This is my husband's bookshelf, which has his to-be-read list, so some books that I've given him that I've enjoyed, such as The Girl Who Saved the King of Sweden, as well as on the bottom, the complete Wheel of Time series, which we are very slowly working our way through. And our last set of bookshelves to show you is sort of our living room display collection, where we've got our TV surrounded on the left by some travel books, and on the right by quite a few different children's books and comic books. In particular, there's some Shel Silverstein poems, there's Neil Gaiman's Sandman collection, just a bunch of the things that we like to have displayed. And as promised, just a glimpse into some of our Christmas decorations. We've got our tree over here, which we love to decorate each year. We get a live tree, smells beautiful. We put up a bunch of ornaments that we've gotten on trips, so it's really great memories. And underneath is all of our Christmas gifts yet to be opened. Along the top, we've got lots of different Christmas lights. And over here, we've got our stockings, which we also put gifts in. I insist on lots and lots of gifts. And just a few other little Christmas decorations to make the holiday bright. Hope you guys have a wonderful Christmas and enjoy this video. Thanks.